There is nothing wrong with the video system. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. For the next 90 minutes, sit quietly, and we will control all that you see and hear. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to enter
the exchange game. Now, Viv, you have to decide whether to keep the Texas Vacation, the His and Hers bathtubs, and the Squeaky Pet toy collection, or exchange them for the box on stage. What's it going to be?
I think I'm going to Austin. I know we haven't been together for very long, but it's been really exciting getting to know you. You're quirky and smart and fun and accommodating for all
These unique guys. Just look at them. And let me tell you, this is the largest collection we've assembled in more than 18 months. Unfortunately,
We know very little about this spontaneous gathering of highly intelligent creatures. Now it looks like
We're coming to the final turn. It's time to get ready. Running neck and neck with Take Your Seats, and everybody quiet now. Time to get ready. Everybody quiet now. Take your seats. Crossing the finish, it looks like.
we've got a great show for you today on Exchange in the AM. And now here's your host, General Manager Julia White.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Austin and welcome to MEC 2014. Woo, that's right. It's been 18 months since we last gathered together, so it's fantastic to have the Exchange community back together right here in Austin. Now, we have come from near and far to be here in Austin. As the map will show shortly, the Power BI map, of course. We've come from over 41 countries and 6 continents to be here today, including some people from Austin as well. So around the globe. Now, it's a very diverse group in terms of where we come from, but it's also diverse in terms of what we do. We actually have a winemaking company here, and even an auto parts maker as well, and I think everything in between. We also have lots of different exchange that we're dealing with. We have lots of folks running on-premise exchange, lots of folks doing exchange online with Office 365, plenty of you doing hybrid, and even some virtualization folks out there. And some of you, of course, are running your exchange in a very kind of fancy data center environment, and some of you are doing it in more humble conditions. And of course, now some of you are first-time MEC attendees, and welcome. It's great to have you here. But I know a lot of you have attended maybe so many MECs and so far back ago that you might actually remember when Perry had hair. All right, but what we all do have in common is that we're here to understand more about exchange and go deep. We're here to geek out, right? That's right. We're here to talk about things like MAPI and active sync and transport rules. Now, those are things that, ordinary people don't quite understand, but that's okay. But sometimes if you ask ordinary people about those things, the results they're interesting. We'll take a look.
Hi, we're on the street talking to people about what they think about Microsoft Exchange. So, Carmen,
Yes?
how often do you use Exchange?
Not very often.
What kind of exchange?
What is Exchange?
Actually, I've never heard of it, but I've heard of Microsoft.
This is going to be bad because I don't know what exchange is.
So you probably don't know if you're using it at all. You could be using it every day.
I could be, and I have no idea.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say pop?
What?
Pop.
I do not know what that is.
Pop-up?
Soda.
Are you down with ABP? What about journaling?
Never heard of it. Blog.
Writing. S-MIME.
Ooh, I don't know.
I think it's some kind of email.
You feel like as an email user, you should know what it is?
Yes.
EWS. What about cloud?
I've heard of this thing.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you at all worried about directory harvest attacks?
They're harvesting my directory.
Are you worried about that?
Yeah.
I don't really worry about it, honestly.
What is the strangest thing you've ever found in your dumpster?
Porn advertisements?
I want to talk to you about your workplace's BYOD policy.
BYOD?
Yeah, what do you think that is?
Bring your own dumpster. I really don't
Bring
know.
your own...
Dog?
If your office had a bring your own daiquiri program, would you participate?
Yeah, of course, why not? Sounds like fun.
All right. Now, clearly, those people don't get it. But luckily, for the next 3 days, you were surrounded by people who get it deeply. Now, that's what MEC's all about. And the recipe for MEC is simple. First, we bring lots and lots of people from the product team out here to Austin. We bring in MVPs and partners and customers, of course. And then we add a little, music, liquor, and the thing that results is very beautiful. Now, to get things started, we have an all-star lineup show. People from across the product team and the leaders are all here. To get it started, though, I'm excited to introduce Jeff Teeper, who's responsible for our engineering of SharePoint, Exchange, and Office 365. So help me welcome Jeff Teeper.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks. It is awesome to be here in Texas, where the weather is a lot better than what we left at home. We're excited, as Julia said, to geek out and have a great time this week. For me, I looked on the flight down when the first MEC was that I attended, because you can still sort of travel through the press releases, and it was October of 2000, so about almost 13 and a half years ago in Dallas, as we were gearing up to release what became Exchange 2000. And it's fun to reflect back about how big the community's grown. We were all struggling to get people 50 meg mailboxes, if you can remember. Now we've got 50 gig mailboxes in most on-prem and in the cloud customers as part of their plan. And really, billions and trillions of messages exchanged each year through the work we've done collectively. And so we can all take a lot of pride that we're powering the world of communications. And we're really excited about taking that partnership to the next level this week. So as Julia said, the team's really fired up to be here. They were huddled backstage, all excited to come up and show you the new stuff. We're excited, first and foremost, to hear how things are going with Exchange in your organization. What's going well? Where do we need to do better? We're excited to build the community and get your feedback on things you need to see in the product or the documentation or programs. And lastly, we're excited to show you some new work coming from Exchange and Office All Up, and get your thoughts on that and how it's going to help your organization. So this is going to be a really fun week for the team, and I think a fun week for everybody here at MEC. I thought before we sort of dive into some of the details with the follow-on presenters, I'd give a little bit of perspective about the future of Office. We've been bombarding Twitter and blogs in the last 6 weeks, in case you haven't noticed. Free version of the web applications, Office Online, available a few weeks ago. We introduced OneNote is a free cross-platform mobile Mac, Windows note-taking application. We had the SharePoint conference, which is nowhere near as good as this conference. The SharePoint conference a few weeks ago, where we introduced some of the work we're doing across SharePoint and Exchange and the rest of the suite. And then Friday, as many of you know, we took a huge milestone for the company, introducing Office for the iPad, and that was extremely well received, the top productivity apps on the App Store that day, and we're really excited. So as you can see, we're innovating faster and faster and getting new work out there. The context for all that is really the transformation of Office. How can we take the cloud, mobile, social, big data, machine learning, and rethink, reimagine, Exchange, and in fact, all of Office 365 to take business productivity and communications to the next level. And so we're going to show some of that this morning, and in particular, we're really going to emphasize the cloud. We're going to give you, and continue to give you, lots of flexibility, on-prem only, hybrid cloud. We're committed to that. We're committed to new server releases. We're committed to flexible hybrid topologies. Committed, committed, committed. But we are going to lead more and more clearly with the cloud, partly because we think the excellence of operations we've got and the economics that we can get at scale we can pass on to you. But we think more importantly, we can deliver more value to you faster through the cloud. At this point, we've got 400,000 cores, running 400 petabytes of information in 20 data centers. We're updating them every week with 99.98% availability the last few quarters. And so we're delivering more and more value faster and faster to you and your organizations. And we really want to emphasize this is not just about end user value. There's new capabilities for IT leaders, whether it's new policy management, new reporting, new analytics, new security features. We can deliver more value to IT folks, and so they can do a better job running Exchange and the rest of our product line in the organization. So one aspect of the cloud is delivering faster and more. The second is we can do new suite-wide experiences more easily. If you think about some of the scenarios and things you've given us feedback on in past MECs, doc collaboration should be easier. Enterprise search should be better. Social networking and the bridge between mail and enterprise social should be easier. Because we can design Exchange and SharePoint and Yammer and Link and new capabilities we'll talk about today like the Office Graph in an integrated way and update them more quickly, we can design and optimize these new suite experiences. Whereas in the past, in most IT organizations, they would deploy these servers at different rates. And lastly, and this might be a little more subtle, is that we can leverage massive computing power in the cloud for big data and machine learning. You already see this in the anti-spam work we've done in Exchange Online Protection, but there's going to be more and more areas where big data and machine learning in a secure, private way can help improve the operations and user experience of Exchange. So with that in mind, I'm going to highlight 3 areas where we're focused on delivering big new value. One is the social workplace. Second is personalized insights. And then I'm going to talk about security and compliance. We're going to show each of those in a little bit this morning. But let me first start with social. I think everybody's seen the huge proliferation of social networking tools in people's personal lives. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and many, many more every day. And those are a complement to email. Email has its strengths and weaknesses, and those communication modes, people are using them collectively. And we're seeing more and more people want social in the workplace. Clearly, Yammer is a great part of our product line. But we don't want to stop there. We really want to embrace social concepts across the suite, across all of Office, and in particular, how can we embrace social concepts in email? Because 99% of the communication activity happens through email, and why should you have to leave email to other tools or modes? Why can't they all connect together and make things better? The underlying business value, a lot of people will say, well, gee, social, isn't that a waste of time and so forth? Why are you doing that? And the underlying business value of that is this concept that we have called working like a network. The idea is if between Exchange and SharePoint and Link and Yammer, we can connect communications, have them be more open and where appropriate, more discoverable, the more connections that we have between people and information and organization, the stronger the network becomes, the more valuable the network becomes, the more responsive the organization becomes to change and allows people to be innovative and creative and influence the dynamics of their company. So that's the business value behind embracing some of these social concepts in Exchange and the suite more broadly. So we're going to show a couple of things this morning that we're doing around enterprise social, including the integration in innovation in Exchange. One is this concept called unified groups. Today, as people know, it's a little tricky sometimes to create a distribution list and make a SharePoint site out of that, and how does it relate to security groups? And this Yammer thing's come along, and then, gosh, I want to have a meeting with the people in my team and Link, and how do I do that? I got to re-enter the names of the people. Well, if we had a very simple, friction-free concept called groups that was shared across the suite, that would make all that experience easier. People would collaborate more, and the network would grow stronger. So one concept is unified groups. The second is work we're doing in social conversations, where how can we bridge email to enterprise social by adopting some of the concepts that make it easier, particularly on a phone, to be able to contribute in and out to a conversation and move on. And so you'll see these groups and social conversations in just a little bit. So that's one side of the user work we're doing, social networking embraced across Office, powered by Exchange, driving open communication. The second is this idea of personalized insights. We all know together we've partnered to get the world running on email. All of you and us have worked to make that happen. And we all know there's some good in that and there's some bad in that, and how overloaded we are with email. In fact, last night Julia and I and Perry went out to the second best barbecue place in Austin, Texas. We have to find the best. But we were at the second best, and we compared notes on how many emails we had in our inbox. And it was with great glee. Perry Clark brought up his phone and scrolled through about 1 trillion unread messages. And he was really proud of it because he said he could parse all those things that way. And at one level, that's great because all these people are communicating and Perry knows what's going on. On the other hand, we could do a better job of learning from what goes on in email and helping you prioritize information better to deliver personalized experiences. That's something that now with big data and machine learning, we could do where we could never have tackled this problem before. Something we thought of over the last decade, but now the computing power has gotten to the point where we can do it. And so the concept that we have behind this is called the Office Graph. This is where we build a model for you as an individual in your organization that's secure and private to only the information that you actually have the rights to see. We don't do any new information disclosure, but we learn based on your email conversations, based on work going on in your organization in documents, in SharePoint, and we'll take more and more signals and content from across our services and build a smart composite graph for you that we can use to power really revolutionary new experiences. This is something we've been using for quite a while internally in dog food, as we say in the Exchange team and Office more broadly, and it really is pretty transformative. We're using it for two kinds of experiences. One is where we start to evolve existing user interfaces. How can Outlook and Exchange be more intelligent about cleaning up your inbox for you based on this learning? The second is powering new discovery experiences. We have this application codename Oslo will show where how can, based on what's trending in my organization, documents being read, shared in Exchange, who I work with in Exchange, how can that present the most relevant list of documents for me in the organization for me? It's really a magical experience, and we're going to show that in a little bit. So that's new and existing experiences transformed by this concept called the Office Graph, which in large part is primarily getting smart because of learning from email in a secure, private way. That's a great transition to our third area, which is security and compliance. We know this has always been top of mind for email, but increasingly so in the world of cloud and mobile. Companies are thinking about how to move to the cloud faster, to embrace delivery mechanisms that get them new value quicker than ever before. Companies are supporting things like bring your own device, where users are coming in with new devices, and they're really wrestling, as you all know, with how to manage security and compliance better so that they can take advantage of these new technologies, so that you can empower your users more with things like enterprise social integration and Exchange and so forth. And so we have always tried to pioneer built-in security compliance in Exchange, like e-discovery and auditing and rights management and encryption and data loss prevention. And we're going to be enhancing those Exchange technologies and taking them across the suite. In fact, some of the folks you'll see this morning who used to be inside the Exchange team are now the Office 365 information protection team, driving client-server service across Office 365 to drive security and compliance. And so we're really excited about that work there, partially because we know it's essential to you today, but we also know it's a key piece to unlock the transformation we need in mobile and the cloud. The foundation of all this is a trusted platform. We are very committed to have Exchange continue to be the leader in quality, reliability, performance, huge investment, biggest, the Exchange team continues to be one of the larger product teams at Microsoft, and we're really excited about that work, whether you're on premises or in the cloud. We know that that foundation of trust and quality is really paramount. And so let me talk about some of the investments we're making. First is, you know, from Perry and his team, the architecture of Exchange, world-class team, scalability, robustness, reliability, security, all built in, tons of new work going on there. You'll see a bunch of it in sessions this week. The foundation is this secure, robust architecture. But we've taken it to the next level when we're running it in our data centers, where we've designed for massive scale, we've optimized the network, the directory, the data center configurations, and so forth. and in particular with an intense focus on security such that no Microsoft employee ever can or needs to see your data to run the service, to update to new builds, to do diagnostics and so forth. We've done a hardcore approach there, and we know it's a key part of companies moving to the cloud. The other side of this is the certification. Great, you've designed your data centers, you've designed your architecture, you've designed your processes, but how can I make sure that you're delivering this? And so we've done a whole bunch of auditing work, including the leading standards support in the industry, certification support, including CGIS and HIPAA and EU model clauses and FISMA and on, really best in class in certifications. And one I'd love to highlight is the really demanding CGIS standard, which has allowed massive organizations like the state of Texas, for example, to move to the cloud with Office 365. So I've clearly emphasized our point of view, and we do have a point of view that the cloud is the place where we're going to deliver you the most value and where we can deliver you the most security and robustness to empower IT leaders to run their services best. But I really also want to reinforce that we're very committed to on-premises releases. We're committed to doing a new update to Exchange and SharePoint in 2015. It's our plan to continue those. We're not going cloud only, even though we're being cleared we're cloud first. We are committed to those server releases, both for people who want to stay on premises and people who want a more of a bridge to the cloud. We would emphasize that Office 365 is making the server products better. We can get the bits in the cloud and exercise them at scale before we put them in the server product. And we also get a whole bunch of learning operating data centers around the world where we're delivering billions of messages through hundreds of petabytes and soon exabytes of Exchange storage. And that scale experience improves the product quality as well as the documentation quality. And you'll hear about that more from Perry Clark. Last thing I thought I'd talk about in this vein is the impact of the cloud on all of you. Leaders in the running of Exchange, the design of Exchange, the working on Exchange with your user base. We get a lot of questions, to be frank, about, hey, this cloud is good for users, new value, this cloud is good for companies, they get more agility, save some money, but what about the admin? And there's some concern that this leads, the cloud transformation leads to the reducing of IT staff, in particular the email staff. And so we wanted to find out the truth. We didn't think that was true, but we're data people and we wanted to get some data. So we did interviews at about 30 companies that had taken their Exchange deployment to the cloud with Office 365 to figure out what had happened to the Exchange IT team. And in every single one of those organizations, the Exchange administrators were still around. Their jobs did change in some fundamental ways, but they got more impactful and more interesting. And so we're running some quotes about the nature of those change. But as they spent last time on, say, making sure their Exchange servers were addressed on Patch Tuesday, they got to spend more time on really thinking through strategically how communications was going to help their organization. How could security and compliance be more rigorous? How could Exchange integrate with their unified communications and directory strategy? What should they be doing in mobile devices? And that Exchange IT leader became more valuable, the job became more fun, they became more impactful, and we're really, really proud of that this transformation and adoption of new technologies has made betting on Exchange, working on Exchange more interesting as opposed to substituting the work. And so I think that's something we really want to emphasize this week. Clearly, there's a lot more to cover. We are very excited about the transformation and evolution of email in general and Exchange in particular. We are excited to partner with all of you on that transformation. Have a great time in the sessions this week, and thank you again for your support of Exchange.
We've built an unbelievable collection.
I found this up in my grandpa's attic, and
Did you hear that? Oh! Get him! This admin has just switched out his company's Exchange server with Office 365. Let's see if any users notice. She doesn't notice the switch at all. But there seems to be some changes happening to him. With less routine maintenance to deal with, it appears he's accomplishing more, and people are taking notice. He's tearing through his to-do list at a remarkable pace. He's implementing new DLP policies. training the legal team on e-discovery, teaching people how to use new features, and broadening his skill set. Congratulations, Exchange Admin. You've discovered a better life for you and your users in the cloud. Individual results may vary. While Office 365 is awesome, you may not be promoted to CIO or receive a company hover car as a result. Coworkers may or may not reward you with a pat on the back or a celebratory beverage. Consult a physician if your celebration lasts longer than 4 hours.
All right, welcome back to the show. And joining me now is Christian Andeker, who leads the engineering team around information protection and compliance. Welcome, Christian. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Julia.
Now, Christian, I know the Exchange team, and I know the SharePoint team, and Yammer and Link, but you don't actually sit on any of those teams. So tell me, what exactly do you guys do?
They kicked me out as we shipped Exchange 2013. There were two things we kept hearing from customers and made us rethink how we organized around compliance and security. The first thing was that we heard from more and more customers that they needed compliance tools and security tools that they hadn't needed in the past. And the second thing was that customers were frustrated that compliance and security worked slightly differently in different Office products, and that all the products didn't have the same capabilities. And so what we did was we pulled together all the brightest minds from Exchange, SharePoint, and Link, which is of course why I joined this team, and we formed a special team focused on delivering compliance tools and security tools across Office.
So now that you have that dream team, yourself included,
Yes.
now what exactly are you guys working on?
So we're working on a number of compliance tools, archiving, e-discovery, auditing, data loss prevention, encryption. Those are the ones we picked to start with. I'm probably forgetting one of them. As we work on all these areas, though, we try to stick to a certain set of principles that applies to all of them. One is to build these in a built-in, not bolt-on fashion, trying to use the stores we have and the data that we already store. Another one is to not sacrifice end-user productivity. And the third is to empower compliance officers to do this work themselves.
I like it. That all sounds really good. But I want to know a little bit more. So let's start with built-in bolt-on. What does that mean exactly?
So our vision, our goal, is to provide a complete set of compliance tools and security tools for the vast majority of our customers. The customers that don't have very special and different needs in all these areas that I described right out of the box. So for the vast majority of customers, we would hope that they don't need to double copy all their data into a separate archive, that they don't need to do a lot of exporting of huge data volumes to put in a separate e-discovery product, or copy logs into a smarter analytics tool. Now, of course, we know that there is no way that our team is going to provide all the requirements in the world, solve all the needs in this area. And so there are certainly needs for third parties to help out, and there are many third parties like that doing an excellent job. And so for those cases, we will also enable APIs and reasonable ways to export and import data from the Office servers and Exchange. But again, reiterating that our goal is that for most of the customers who maybe in the past haven't had a lot of compliance needs, or who have the normal needs, the basic needs, nothing very special, that we will be able to meet those needs out of the product.
Now, the built-in concept, I suppose that's particularly important and true in the cloud. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. It's also particularly easy for customers to consume from the cloud, because what happens in the cloud is that the deployment step of using these tools is already solved for you. Things are already deployed. Two good examples. One would be rights management services, RMS, which takes some work to deploy in non-cloud settings, but in the cloud it's really a matter of a flip of a switch to turn on RMS for your users, so they get things like do not forward policies for email. Another example is a capability that we added recently in the encryption area, Office 365 message encryption, which allows you to send encrypted email to any recipient on the internet. That's another example where you can start using this capability from Office 365 just by turning it on and configuring it.
Nice.
You don't have to go deploy anything.
Nice. All right. Okay, so I'm getting built-in, not bolt-on. Got that. So then you talked about not disrupting users. So I'm going to need to understand that a little better.
Yeah, so since I spent a decade working on end-user productivity tools before focusing on compliance, so this is near and dear to my heart. Most compliance solutions in the industry today, including our own, tend to take this view that as you increase compliance and security, the end-user experience kind of has to go down, has to become more difficult. And there is certainly a trade-off there. But we believe that there is a lot of innovation to do, new ideas to find in the area of making the end-user experience still be good while you have compliance tools in place.
Can you give me an example, maybe?
Yeah, so a great example which kind of shows how compliance tools can involve the end user, inform the end user what's going on, and involve them in the compliance process is what we did with data loss prevention, with policy tips, and most importantly, the override feature. So this is something we've had with Exchange 2013, so we've had for a while, but it's an example of how we're thinking about end user productivity with compliance across the suite and across all these tools. So the way the data loss prevention policy tips work is that when a user is trying to do something that they're not allowed to do, instead of getting just error messages and being blocked and confused, instead of calling help desk and asking admins to please change configuration for them, they get UI which explains to them what they're not allowed to do. And then even better, they can get the ability to override if maybe they already talked to the legal department and they already told the legal department already decided that in this particular case, it's an exception. You're allowed to send an email with the social security number here. And so the tools give the user the ability to override, explain what they're doing and why. And then that action gets audited. But the important thing is that the user's work did not get blocked. They're still productive. They can still do what they needed. And even more importantly, they're not just confused about the tool breaking and then going to the personal email account to do the same thing. And so not only does this improve end user productivity, but it actually keeps the corporate data more safe.
Okay. Hey, so now talking about data loss prevention, I think there's some recent work we've done. I want to know about that.
Yes, yes. So the information protection team has been around for about a year, and some of the things that we're investing in are starting to come out. There's a lot more coming. A few things came out with Service Pack 1, DLP policy tips in OA. We had previously in Outlook, but now it's also in OA. Document fingerprinting as a way to catch content that is to be considered sensitive. And then we added a number of additional sensitivity information types for new regions.
All right, so that's SB1. What about beyond that? What's coming next?
So for DLP specifically, the two next steps that we want to take is first off, bring DLP to data at rest. So today you can specify a data loss prevention policy which will catch users as they're trying to send email that contains stuff that should not be shared in certain ways. But next, we will also let you do kind of an e-discovery search to find all the credit card numbers in mailboxes, to find all the social security numbers and so forth.
Got it.
And the second step is we want to expand DLP beyond email to other workloads, starting with SharePoint.
All right, sounds good, both current and future. I like it. All right, so last but not least, you also talked about empowering the compliance officer. So what does that mean?
Yes, this is all about making sure that us in this room, we don't have to talk to legal so much. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy my Friday morning tea with the legal department. But it'll be great to not have that every Friday, maybe once a month. So this is about giving compliance officers and legal a self-service way, without constant IT help, to do things like e-discovery and managing hold on mailboxes. The first thing we're building in this area is something we call the Unified Compliance Portal, Unified Compliance Center. It will be an easy-to-use UI where you can send compliance officers directly to manage these things. As part of building this one place for compliance UI, we are also harmonizing the way the compliance tools work across Exchange and SharePoint and the rest of the Office suite, so that hold and retention and all these things will work the same way, have the same capabilities across all the servers.
Got it. That'll be goodness for everyone here, I think.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so I think I've got a picture of it, but I'd love to see something. Can we see some of it?
Of course, of course. The
All
Soft
right.
Kashi, whose team builds a lot of this stuff, is here to show us how it works.
All right.
Thanks, Christian. Good morning, everyone. So the news is full of stories about companies being hit with security breaches and information loss. To protect you against these kinds of incidents, Office 365 gives you powerful tools for information protection and compliance. You just heard of some of the cool new things that we're doing to keep your data secure and help you be more compliant. I'm excited to show you some of these. So let's get started. I'm logged into Office 365 as Garth, our IT admin in Contosa Pharma. And what you see here is our new Unified Compliance Center. This is your one-stop shop for all your compliance needs. The Compliance Center lets you manage things like data loss prevention, archive, auditing, e-discovery, and encryption from one place. So for example, if you want to apply a hold policy, you can do this in Office in one location, rather than going and visiting the different screens in your Exchange and SharePoint consoles. So let's take a closer look at DLP. As you can see, I have some existing policies configured in my organization. I have a PCI DSS policy, a HIPAA policy, and a France data loss protection policy. All of these policies were configured with our out-of-the-box DLP templates. But today, I need to use DLP to help my organization with a new compliance challenge. At Contosa Pharma, we just started clinical drug trials around a new drug for hair growth. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's essential that that none of these drug trials results get in the hands of our competitors. So let's take a look at some of these forms. Here I have a hair growth drug trial form, and it's an empty form that our nurse is going to use when they're running the drug trials. But in order to detect these forms, I'm going to use the new document fingerprinting feature in DLP, which is going to match content portions with the fingerprint of this drug trial form. So to create a new drug trial form fingerprint, I'm going to click on the plus sign for adding a new one. I'm going to name it, and then I'm going to add the form that I just showed you, and go ahead and save this. So what Exchange is doing, it's examining the content of the form that I just uploaded and creating a fingerprint to identify this document and any documents like it. That's all there is to it. 3 clicks, and we're done creating the fingerprint. So now, I want to use this document fingerprint that I've created to actually detect if someone tries to send a drug trial form and then take a particular action. Let's take a look at how that's done. So if I open my DLP policy, you can see that this one includes 2 rules. Both of these rules are going to detect sensitive information based on the fingerprint and take an encryption action. So this first rule is going to fire when an email is sent inside my organization and it matches the clinical drug trial fingerprint. When I do that, I'm going to encrypt the message and apply an RMS template, in this case, the do not forward template, to protect it. You're probably asking, what if my recipient is outside my company and they may not have a client that reads RMS? Can I still encrypt it? Absolutely. So I'm just going to use the Office 365 message encryption service, which is our new service we just released that lets you send an encrypted mail to anyone. And in this case, we're going to look at the second rule, which is going to fire when I send email outside my organization. Again, I'm matching on the clinical drug trial fingerprint, and I'm going to encrypt the message using Office 365 message encryption. Pretty simple. So let's take a look at how we educate and empower end users using DLP. So I'm now Sarah Davis, our nurse at Contosa Pharma. I love it that everybody loves it. And I'm going to work with the participants in the drug trial. So I need to send an email to one of my study participants. In this case, it's going to be Alex. And we're going to send Alex his own study results. So I'm going to do this using my iPad, using the OA app on it. So I have here this mail, which I just deleted. And that's why there's a backup. You know, I'm not exactly the nurse that I play on TV. So, let me just switch back to this. We're still going to use this one. All right, so I'm going to forward this mail back to Alex. And as soon as I compose this email to Alex Darrow, since Alex is outside my company, a policy tip will show up at the top, and in this case, we'll see if this one works, and if it doesn't, I'll talk you through it. The policy tip will show that this particular email has a clinical drug trial study result, which is, all right. So, in this particular, we're going to skip this particular demo, but in this particular demo, you would have seen the policy tip fire, which would have shown you that this particular email message that I'm sending to Alex has the fingerprint of the document in it and would allow me to, it would block the message. Now, in the case of my company policy, it allows nurses, such as myself, to basically override the company policy, clicking the override button, and supplying a study participant just business justification and sending this mail out. Now, again, if I override the mail, obviously that action would be audited and used for later reporting. So, in the case that we would have seen the policy tip, we would have seen that the policy tips we're adding into OA, something that we've had in Outlook before. It's basically our unique approach to DLP, which both informs and involves the end user. And because we've added it to OA, it's now available on a variety of devices. So let's switch gears again. And in this case, I'm going to switch over to be Alex Darrow, the hair growth study participant. Now, obviously, the drug that we're testing seems to be working. So, luckily, I've sent a prior mail, just in case my iPad didn't work exactly the way I wanted it. So, I am expecting a mail from Sarah at Contoso. And as you can see, I've logged into my personal Yahoo account, and I've received this mail from Sarah. So, if I go ahead and open it, I can see that the Contoso Pharma logo and disclaimer are here. And as I follow the instructions to open this encrypted portion, it's going to show me that this is an encrypted message, and clicking on this takes me to the Contoso Pharma secure portal. Now, since I was already logged into my Microsoft account associated with my Yahoo email address, it just opens up. Now, obviously, we have really strong encryption, so it takes a few extra seconds in this particular case. Now, since I'm in the Contoso Pharma portal, I can read, reply, forward this content with the mail remaining the mail remaining encrypted beyond that. So, we've seen a lot of cool things today. Some worked, some didn't. We saw the Unified Compliance Center, your one-stop shop for all your compliance needs. We saw the DLP document fingerprinting and policy tips in OA, almost on every device. Those empower our end users. And finally, we saw how we can send an encrypted mail to anyone using the new Office 365 message encryption. Thank you, everyone, and please enjoy the rest of your keynote.
All right. That was some great stuff. I particularly enjoyed the wigs. All right. Now, Christian, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. And obviously, it's a big week here at MEC. But I think for you personally, it's a kind of a busy time, right?
Yeah. We have a 15-day-old baby at home.
15-day-old baby.
So, yeah,
Look at that. And dedication. He's still here despite that. So. Well, in honor of your dedication, I have a gift for you. Well, it's actually not for you. It's for your daughter. And it is a MEC onesie with a policy tip that says, "Don't drop me."
So no override for that tip.
Yeah, no override.
No override.
No auditing there. So, thanks again, Christian.
Thank you, Julia. Are we rolling a video?
The video roll.
Oh, you got the bounce back.
Reply all, no! Issued a severe email storm warning.
Over the years, Exchange has been at the forefront of email innovation. Many of our technologies have changed the way we work. Some of our inventions, though, have been less than successful. Take, for example, our hands-free admin interface. There were some obvious bugs.
Move database. Migrate mailboxes. Input error.
The reply all punisher got a little out of hand, and the automatic status updater tended to overshare.
Steve's away right now, eating his 4th bagel of the morning in the bathroom.
I did have high hopes for the compliance-enabled mouse that would not let you send non-compliant email. Then, there were all the ideas we had, but we knew no one would want. You know, when you are trying to push to the edges, sometimes you don't always get what you expect. But I know there are great things on the horizon.
All right. Welcome back to the show again, and now I have Harbella here joining me, and Harv is responsible for engineering across Exchange. So great to have you, Harv.
Thank you, Julia. I'm really excited to be back at MEC. This is the most exciting, most fabulous, strange, and wonderful conference in the world. Isn't that right? Yay!
All right. Now, Harv, there's so much going on in the industry, so much around Exchange specifically. What's top of mind for you as leading the engineering team there?
Yeah, you know, I think that this is the most exciting time for communications. There are 3 big, huge tidal waves happening in our industry: mobile, social, and big data. You know, if you think about this, each one of them is huge, you know, like Texas-sized, you know, big, disruptive, every single one of them. But the 3 of them together, 3 of these big things happening at the same time, wow, that's like once in a lifetime kind of an event. It's a generational paradigm shift.
Do you think it could be like big as like when we came out with emoticons?
No, I think it's bigger than emoticons, Julia.
All right.
You know, and so the 3 of them happening at the same time, that is just amazing. I think it's going to profoundly change communications. And in fact, I think it's going to profoundly change everything else as well. It's, you know, these are that big of waves happening at the same time.
All right. Let's hear more about that. All right, mobile. So let's start with that. Tell me what's so big and what's so changing there.
Yeah, there's so many exciting things that are happening, you know, in mobile. You know, for example, did you know that in the next 6 months, the number of smartphones in the world, not just the number of feature phones or dumb phones, but the number of smartphones in the world are going to exceed the number of PCs.
You know, actually, I had heard that for 1 billion people that their smartphone is their only connected device. So underscoring your point, I get it.
Yeah, and then, you know, and the other thing we know is that about half of the emails, and this is a really cool thing, about half of the emails people now see on the phone first. Wow, that is amazing.
Big
you
shift.
know, yeah, exactly. You know, and so phone is clearly going to become, it's rapidly becoming, it's, you know, it's very fast becoming the only screen that matters. It's going to become the primary screen for communications, for email. It's the only device that matters.
Got it. I certainly do a lot of email on my phone, that's for sure. All right, so mobile, I get it, big and moving fast. So social, how does that relate to email? Tell me what's going on there.
Yeah, I know that Jeff mentioned earlier how social helps a company work like a network. You know, and one of the great things about social is that, you know, it promotes open public communications. It helps connect people together. It makes a group of people collaborate more easily, you know, with each other. It has expressive experiences, you know, and so social is having a big impact on all forms of communications. I think communications are becoming more open, they're becoming more expressive. Thanks to social, all communications are going to be affected by that.
All right, I'd like to hear more about that in a second, but big data. Now, how does big data, email, what's going on there?
Yeah, you know, we all know that the cost for processing, for storing, for aggregating data, that's all falling dramatically.
Okay.
You know, and big data has now not advanced to a point where we could take like this massive amounts of data, you know, and machine learning is getting so good that we can find all the interesting patterns in data. We can derive very deep insights. We can tell which people are important to you, Julia, this week for your communications. And how would we use that to build something that's really tailored, a personalized experience for you?
Okay.
You know, and we could never do that before. Big data and machine learning unlocks all that. It lets us do this for the first time.
Nice. All right. So now Jeff talked about kind of transforming Office holistically when kind of these big trends. And bring it back home. So for Exchange, what does that mean? What are these things going to do to Exchange specifically?
Yeah, I know Jeff mentioned how Office is enabling a social workplace. As part of that, Exchange is doing what we call a social email.
Okay.
The idea behind social email is that we're taking all the power of social, we're taking all the power of machine learning, and bringing it right into email. Then we're providing rich, beautiful, awesome experiences for all of this on all the screens, including and particularly the phone.
Makes sense.
So it's all the power of social and machine learning on all the screens, including the phone.
Okay.
And that's what social email is.
Okay.
And then there are three main components of that. The first one, we call it intelligent triage. And the idea behind intelligent triage is to use the power of machine learning to really tailor, to personalize that experience for you, to help you stay on top of things.
Okay.
Another capability is about deep integration with OneDrive. So we can make it really easy for you to collaborate on documents in email.
Okay.
And then finally, we're really excited about this investment in groups that allows a group of people to more easily share with others, to collaborate with others, makes collaboration dramatically easier. So those are the three components of social email.
I like it. I'm excited to try it, but I want to understand a little bit more on that front. So let's start with the first one, which was intelligent triage. What exactly does that mean?
As we all know, email is awesome.
Yep.
It's great at so many things.
Yep.
That's why it's used so widely. It's used so intensely, and there's so much of it. Inboxes get overloaded. Users get stressed out. And in the past, we have built like many good manual tools to help people deal with this information overload.
Sure.
For example, there are folders, there is rules, there is categories, there's flags, and so on. And those are very good tools. The challenge with all of them is that the challenge with all these manual tools is that they are, well, manual. They still require users to do work to stay on top of their email, to triage their email, stay on top of what's important to them.
Right.
And so when we thought about this problem, we said, wow, what we can't do is we can't just add more manual tools. The manual tools we have are really important.
Sure.
There's no doubt about that. But more manual tools, that's not the answer. That wouldn't really help. What we needed was some smarter, some better, some more automatic ways, for users to stay on top of their emails, to know that they really are taking care of all the important things for them.
So you say automatic and tailored and personalized. That sounds like a job for the Office graph.
Yeah, exactly. So we're taking like big data, we're taking machine learning to build this really personalized, personalized relevance model for you. Let's kind of take a step back. So this thing we call the Office graph, right? It's something that is, one thing that's important to remember about this is that it is for you, Julia. It is a graph for every user. It's personalized to the user.
Okay.
And big data is not new. And a lot of people do big data. The thing that I'm really excited about in our approach, the thing that is unique about our approach, is that we're taking, we're doing this on a per user basis. And that's really very hard. If you think about building a relevance model, building an insights engine that is per user, that's a very, very hard scale problem. We have been working on this for many years now, in deep collaboration with Microsoft Research, on this. And we're really proud, we're really excited about it becoming real. And we have been, once we have that model, when we have Office graph, we can start gleaning, insights from the Office graph. For example, which people are important to Julia this week for her communications.
Okay.
That's an insight we can glean from the Office graph. And once we know that, how can we use that to tailor the experience for Julia, to be able to really personalize the experience for you, and make really all of our features really smart.
Okay.
We have been dogfooding these features at Microsoft, iterating on them, perfecting them.
Okay.
We're really excited about that potential. I really honestly believe it's going to change forever the way you triage. I don't say that lightly. You know, it's really going to change forever the way you triage. They are that good. They're really amazing.
All right. Well, I'm excited about it, but do I get to see some of it?
Absolutely.
Are we share that?
We have invited like Paul Lamont from our team to show us a demo of these awesome features.
Welcome, Paul.
Hey, thanks. So across Office, we're using the Office Graph to build a set of powerful, personalized experiences designed to really help you focus in on the information that matters to you as an individual. So 3 great examples of these tailored experiences in the new Outlook web app are called Clutter, People View, and the new personalized search experience. So first, let's take a look at Clutter. So here it is, the bottom of my inbox. Now the whole point of Clutter is to help me focus on the things that are actually important to me by moving the less important things out of my inbox. So I want to spend a little time on what's in the inbox first. So it's not immediately apparent, but these are the conversations that matter most to me. This is Alistair asking me to update an Excel file, Bonnie emailing me about a project we're working on, and this newsletter from TechCrunch, that's one of the ones I actually tend to read every morning. You know, some newsletters I want in my inbox. So Clutter's helping me focus on these important messages by using Office Insights to move the other ones out. And it's close enough at hand that I can still see what's going on and access it if I need to. I can see there's 29 items in my Clutter. And when I open it up, I have an easily scannable view containing generally the type of mail I'm going to tend to gloss over. It's the mail I would have deleted immediately from my list view without reading, or the mail that would have sat unread in my inbox for a long period of time. Now, occasionally, something does end up in Clutter that matters to me. But when I reply to my friend, I let him know that Philly Vanilli's clearly the superior episode. I'll be training Clutter implicitly. Important mails like this, they won't show up in my Clutter anymore. They'll route to my inbox where I want them. And for the Clutter that remains, with a single click, I can delete all of it and return to my inbox. It's much more efficient, much less distracting than hunting and pecking through those individual items in my inbox. So from the first time we enable it, Clutter will give you a much more focused, tailored view of the inbox. And as you use that and train the system over time, it only gets better and better. You find yourself checking that Clutter tray less and less often, and the inbox really becomes yours, feels like yours. So another feature we're powering with the Office Graph is called People View, here in the left-hand pane of OA. So People View is designed to make it much easier to stay on top of the mail from the people that matter the most to you. Because we're using Office Insights to do so, and put those people at the center of your experience, it works automatically. We're looking at communication habits, relationships, and using those to drive this at-a-glance view of the people that matter the most to you without any manual configuration or rules set up. It just works automatically. And with a single click, it's easy to focus in on an individual, in this case, Alex, who apparently was participating in a hair loss study earlier. As I read and triage all of the unread mail from Alex and return to my inbox, you can see he moves out of my people view and the next most important person bubbles up. This keeps the experience fresh and relevant and really tuned to me. Office Insights are also powering the new personalized search experience, where in this case, the point being to unlock the power of search for everybody, not just the power search users who understand sophisticated search syntax. So in this case, I'm searching for a Contoso project update. When I type C, I see a list of personalized suggestions. This isn't just a list of everyone whose name starts with C in my organization. These are the people in the groups that are most relevant to me in my workday, the ones that are most likely to yield results that are relevant to me. Similarly, the suggested terms are related to my communications, my content. Now, as I search and the results come back, you can see in the left-hand pane these dynamic refiners. Again, without having to understand sophisticated syntax, I have these refiners that are related to the content and informed by my organizational habits, my behaviors. It's easy to quickly pivot on an individual based on which of my folders the results may be in. And again, this folder list will adapt depending on the result set that comes back and which folders I tend to use, as well as common and important pivots like whether or not it has an attachment. In this case, I recall that the file I was looking for was sent by Alex. I can quickly hone in on Alex, and there's the file I'm looking for. Personalized search really makes these common everyday tasks, like finding a file from the person you're working with, much more easy, much more fluid and intuitive. So to recap, with personalized search, people view, clutter view, these are the first wave of features that we're building on the Office graph to really help you focus in on that information that's important to you. Over time, we anticipate just building more and more of these personalized experiences, the intent being to really empower users rather than drowning them in that sea of data.
All right, thanks, Paul. All right. All right, so I'm getting intelligent triage. It's making sense to me now.
Yeah.
But you also talked about smarter dot collaboration, and so I want to know more about that.
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, email is just fabulous. It actually is such a great tool for doing so many things. This is why it's used for many, many things in the world. But sometimes, just sometimes, email also gets used when it is not the most optimal tool. A classic example of that is people collaborating on documents in email. In many companies, this still is achieved via people sending attachments back and forth
Sure.
In email. Why do we still do that? SharePoint has been around for many years. If the document was on SharePoint, we would not have to deal with multiple versions. You would get benefit of co-auth, which works really, really well in Office apps. And yet, people keep just sending attachments in email, and they don't get all the benefits they would have gotten if the document was on OneDrive.
Okay.
So, why? Why does this happen? So when you think about that, the reason why we think this is happening is because we have not made this easy enough. Let's take an example. You want to send an email about a document to 5 people.
Yep.
You have to leave Outlook, figure out a place in SharePoint to go post your document to. You have to go tweak the permissions on SharePoint to match the 5 people you're sending the email to. Now then hit the send button in Outlook, and the email, if it gets forwarded to 5 other people, then it will go back and go tweak the permissions again.
Yep.
And that's just madness. It's just too much. It's just too much hassle, right? Who wants to deal with all that?
Right.
It's just easier for us to send the attachment in email, and this is what most people do.
Got it.
We're changing all that. We are doing deep integration between Exchange and OneDrive. Sending an email about a document on OneDrive is going to be as easy as sending an attachment.
Wow.
Plus, you get all the benefits of one version. You get all the benefits of co-auth.
Okay.
It's really the best of all worlds. So you stop wasting your time getting ready to collaborate, and instead just collaborate. It's really a beautiful thing. It really works really, really well.
I love it. Really get rid of attachments once and for all.
Yes.
I like it. All right, can we see it?
Paul is going to be back to tell us about it.
Here we go. So as Harv mentioned, we're innovating in Outlook Web App and OneDrive for Business to really make sharing and collaborating on documents as easy as sending an attachment. So when I'm working with someone today on a document, the most natural thing for me to do is to send that to them in email. It's easy, it just works, and I tend to use attachments. We think that sending a link to a shared document and collaborating on that document should be just as easy. It should just work. So I'm working on a presentation, and I'd like some feedback from Steve and others in my team. So I'm going to send it to him in email, like I typically would. Now, when I go to insert this attachment, this is when things get cool. Not only can I choose a file from my local machine, I also have complete access to OneDrive from within OA. These are all my files, all my folders, as well as important pivots, like the documents that have been shared directly with me, or my Office recent files. Now, in this case, I happen to have created the PowerPoint on my local machine. So I'm going to choose that file. Now, I could send it as a traditional attachment. In this case, I'm working with a handful of people, and I don't want to deal with the version management, change merging headaches that accompany that. So I want to work on a single version in OneDrive. I can do that directly within the experience by choosing to upload and send a link. Now you can tell this will be a OneDrive file by the cloud on the icon. This is pretty cool. But as I add my coworkers to the file, the really awesome part is that this is automatically giving all of them view and edit permissions to that file. The stage is really set for us to work together on a single version using the power of Office and OneDrive to co-author. No more of those kind of headaches moving back and forth between applications to get the permissions right or forgetting to give permissions to the people I'm sending the mail to. It just works just as you'd expect it to and hope that it would. So we've seen the sharing side. What about the receiving side of things? So Alistair sent this Excel file to some of us asking for us to make a couple of quick updates and get back to him. Again, you can see the cloud in the icon. This is a OneDrive document, a single copy that we're all working on, in this case on his OneDrive. Now when I open this, not only do I have a high fidelity rendering, which the table shifted on me, in Excel web app, I also have this side by side with the conversation. Now when we're working together on documents, so much of that important context around the collaboration is in the conversation. And the need to refer back to that or communicate with the people I'm working with is very intense. So having that there and being able to access that without switching back and forth between applications can be very valuable. Now, not only do I have this viewing experience, in this case, I'm being asked to just make a couple of quick changes. I want to do that quickly, right in line within OA. Now, as the edit view is loading up, you can see we've automatically created a draft, housed by comments, and that has a link to the shared document in it as well. We can see the value of the fact that we're working together on a single copy in OneDrive. Steve's actually editing this right now at the same time I am. I can see the changes he's making, make the changes myself, and quickly reply back to the others on the thread to let them know I'm done. So we've really streamlined that process of sharing, collaborating on documents in OneDrive and in Exchange. We're excited about what this is really going to do for collaboration. And also excited about some of the possibilities it empowers when we talk about driving more and more signals, more and more content into the Office graph, which allows us to build compelling experiences like this one, codenamed Oslo. So Oslo is a great experience it's designed to bring the important content in Office 365 to you, rather than you having to go and search for that content. It tells you why this content is interesting to you. It's all of the content I have access to as an individual. Now in this case, the Journey to the Cloud video, it's been shared with me, modified by me, viewed, but also is trending around me. Some of these interesting insights that come when you know what the people I care about are talking about, collaborating on right now, and can bubble that to the front of my view. I'm likely to want to know about that, want to collaborate on that as well. And this is the default view that has that dashboard for discovering files. Oslo is also a very powerful tool for searching content and yields results that are remarkably relevant. So when I go to search, there are a number of queries you would expect, like viewed by me or modified by me, but also these powerful, insightful searches like presented to me, where Oslo can leverage awareness of the meetings I'm in, who I'm meeting with, what content was presented in those meetings, and present these really dynamic, highly personalized and relevant views. So Oslo is a great example of the kind of experience we'll continue to build on the Office graph, experiences that are designed to make it much easier to share, collaborate on, and discover content across Exchange, SharePoint, and the rest of the Office suite.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Nice. That really shows the power of what the Office graph can do. That's fantastic. Yeah. All right, so Harv, so get the .collab and empowering that with intelligent triage with the Office graph. So last one was groups you mentioned, talking about bringing people together. So tell me more about what groups is exactly.
Right, so much of the work we do at work, it's all group-based. Sure. Groups of people, they collaborate with each other, they use email, they use IM, they use meetings, they use documents. Mm-hmm. When you think about our products, though, our products have separate, disconnected concepts of groups. Okay. For example, in email, we have DLs and public folders, then we have Yammer groups and link groups, and SharePoint team sites. Okay. A group has to work across all of those different kinds of things, but our products basically have separate concepts of groups. That really gets in the way. It's harder for groups to collaborate with each other when these products don't have separate concepts of groups. So one really simple but really powerful thing we're doing is unifying the concept of a group across all of Office. So we're going to have one concept of a group we're going to have one membership list for that group across all of these different products. And so you can create, for example, a group in Outlook, and that group is going to be available then everywhere else. It's going to be available in SharePoint, in OneDrive, in Yammer, and so on.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, in each of our products, we're going to do we're doing an awesome support for groups, a first-class support for groups.
Okay.
So you put those things together. We are unifying groups across all of these different products. And then we have an awesome support for group in every single product.
Okay.
What it means is for a group, it's much easier now to collaborate. It's dramatically easier for them to collaborate, in their group across all of those products. They can use all those products together because they just have to define the group once, and it's available, it's visible, it's useful everywhere else.
Okay, now that makes a lot of sense. I can certainly see the benefit of going across all those experiences. But within Exchange specifically, what else is there about groups that defines them essentially?
Yeah, right. So the group investment is very big, right? There's one aspect of group that I really like, and that's about making it easy for people to have public, open conversations in the group.
Okay.
And kind of promote knowledge sharing as a result of that.
Yeah.
Let's kind of take a step back. So groups can be private or they can be public.
Okay.
If a group is private, the group conversations are only visible to the group members.
Okay.
If the group is public, then anybody in the company can participate, and anybody in the company can see those group conversations.
Okay.
Now, your inbox will of course always be private.
Sure.
And so in some ways, this is similar to in Outlook and Exchange, we've had this concept of private inbox. There is of course restricted DLs.
Yep.
There's public folders.
Okay.
So the concepts are similar, but there's an important cultural change we're trying to have in all of us. And that's to take some of the existing conversations we have that might be private or closed, and have them instead intentionally, as we get comfortable, have them instead in these public groups, so that we can have other people in the company benefit from them.
So I get shifting from private to public, but why is that so important?
There'll always be a need, of course, for private conversations. That's not changing, that's not going away. But if you think about email, many of the conversations we have today in email are, I would say, unnecessarily private or unnecessarily closed.
Okay.
And this is why you hear companies talk about how all that knowledge is locked away in people's inboxes.
Sure.
And if it's locked away in people's inboxes, it doesn't help the rest of the company. Let's take an example. Let's assume you and I were working on emoticons.
Okay.
And if you're having conversations about emoticons in like a public group, we will probably realize that there are 10 other people at Microsoft, who are experts in emoticons, who also are working in that space. This is probably a bad example, emoticons, but you get the point. This public conversations kind of help connect us. We discover other people, we connect with them, we learn from them, we share with them.
Yep.
And the work you and I do on emoticons gets better as a result.
Got it.
Because of the connections we are able to make through those public conversations.
Okay.
And so that's, in some way, that's the promise of enterprise social.
Got it.
Jeff mentioned earlier how we are really weaving social through all of Office, right? Through all of Office. And as part of that, we're excited about bringing groups, including public groups, into Exchange.
Got it.
And you're not going to be confused about whether you are in inbox or you're in a public group or you're in a private group. Sharing has to be intentional. It can't be accidental.
Fair enough.
But when you're ready, when you're comfortable, right? By having the support for this, right in Exchange, right in Outlook, it's going to be much easier for you to take some of those conversations that were private and intentionally begin to have them in these public spaces.
That makes sense.
Where other people can discover them, learn from them, and then the whole org becomes more productive.
That totally makes sense. I know Jeff talked about working like a network, and that's really clear part of that. But you're right. I mean, that is a big cultural shift, and I got to believe we need to help users understand that, and maybe get some education around what does it mean and what the benefits are.
Yeah, you're right. Thank goodness we have this user education department in Exchange.
Fantastic.
The last few weeks they have been churning out a lot of videos to help users deal with this cultural shift, this cultural change.
Yeah.
And we're going to roll one of the videos.
Let's see it. Yeah, I think we should use that.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Boy, you sure are growing up fast. I'll bet you're pretty curious about all the changes that are beginning to happen in your life. You probably heard things from friends that have been confusing or even scary. Well, maybe I can clear a few things up for you. For years now, you've been sharing privately with one person or a few people. But lately, you're feeling urges to share out in the open and may even have friends encouraging you to participate in groups. Well, don't worry. This type of sharing is perfectly natural and can even be quite enjoyable. What's that? Why, I'm glad you asked. Yes, open sharing is where ideas come from. When people get together and share, ideas begin to flow freely. Under the right conditions, this exchange of information can lead to beautiful things. Now, with all this open sharing going on, you may be worried about attachment issues, or that your inbox could become engorged.
Wow. Well, that was very educational.
Okay, so we had a little fun with it.
I see.
Right? But in
Yep.
all seriousness, I think that groups in exchange, including public groups in exchange,
Yep.
that's a very significant change. We think it really has a promise to transform the way people work. I really mean it. Transform the way people work. It's, it can be that big.
Awesome. So, are we going to see it? Can
Yes.
I see it?
Yes, we have invited
All right.
Steve Chu next to show us awesome groups.
Fantastic. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Harv. Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to get the opportunity to show you groups today. As Harv mentioned, we've taken this groups concept in Yammer and extended it across Office 365. With this new central building block, we'll enable collaboration experiences that weren't possible before. So let me show you how this works. And I'll be showing you early code today, so please bear with me if there are any bumps along the way. So we start things off here in Yammer. You'll see a list of public groups here pinned to the left. These are groups I've either created or joined. When I click on the marketing forum group, I open that group's conversation feed. This is where users collaborate with others and share information. But I can easily create a new group straight from here. In fact, any user from all throughout the organization can create a group from anywhere in Office 365. This empowers users to be more productive. Now let's go ahead and navigate to Outlook. You'll see my personal inbox at the top, just as you'd expect, but now you'll also notice a list of groups here. This is the same list of groups that you saw in Yammer. So what we've done is we've integrated group membership across Exchange, SharePoint, and Yammer to deliver a unified collaboration experience across the suite. When I click on the marketing forum group, I open that group's conversation feed, which is the same one that you saw in Yammer. So Outlook and Yammer will both show the same conversations for the same groups. This way, all users, whether they live only in email, only in Yammer, or in both, can participate in the group. We've built a collaboration tool that will allow all users in your organization to work more closely together. So now let's take a closer look at this marketing forum conversation feed. You'll notice it looks a little different from your personal inbox. You can see it's a public group here at the top. And what we've done is we've evolved the conversation experience to be lightweight and natural. So conversations appear in the form of cards, and you can quickly start a new conversation here at the top without having to type in an address. It's all done for you. You also get this feed-like conversation to the right, which flows more naturally, with new comments appearing at the bottom of the reading pane. So we've also made this experience more content-centric. For example, my colleague Tejas recently read an article that he thought the group would be interested in. So he posted a link to the article, and you can see an inline preview automatically appear. This is great for folks in the group because they don't just get a plain old URL now. They can actually preview the article and determine if they want to read the full article before clicking on the link. I also saw a YouTube video that I thought the group would like. So I posted a link to the video, and you can see the inline preview just as you'd expect. But now I can even play the video using the native video player in Outlook.
What is technology?
This saves users time by keeping them in the context of their conversations. We want to make the content within conversations more engaging and expressive. So you'll get these inline previews not only in the group experience, but also in the personal inbox. Now, if I add a new member to the group, he or she can get caught up quickly in what the group's been working on, because Outlook contains a history of all conversations for the group. No more having to search for a relevant email over the past few weeks to send to the new member of the group. It's all right here. Now, earlier, you saw Paul show you how we've streamlined the document collaboration experience from the personal inbox. Well, we also have this same experience in groups. You can see I've posted a PowerPoint deck to the group. When I open it, it opens in PowerPoint Online side by side with the original conversation, just as you saw in Paul's demo. But now, when I go to edit the document, it'll automatically be saved to the group's OneDrive for Business. That's right, each group also gets its own OneDrive. So members don't need to worry about permissions or versioning. It's all done for them. And everything Paul showed you earlier, including real-time co-authoring, you can do from here as well. So each group also gets its own calendar. You can see I pinned 3 of my group's calendars here. They're differentiated by color. I can overlay my personal calendar with my group's calendars. And every member of the group can add, edit, or delete any of the items on this calendar, which is great because if somebody who owns the calendar meeting is out of the office, anyone else in the group can adjust the meeting as needed. And if there's a group event that's really important, I can add it to my personal calendar with a single click. This way, if the calendar invite changes in the group space, it'll automatically be reflected in my personal inbox. Now, as Harv mentioned, there are 2 types of groups. There are public groups and private groups. Groups are public by default because we want to encourage users to engage in open conversations as a way to discover new information and new contacts within their organization. So helping users find the right groups to join is really important for this concept. Now, naturally, we've made it easy to browse and search for public groups, but there's this new scenario we're really excited about, and that's the ability to see what groups your colleagues have joined. So Paul is somebody I work closely with, so there's a good chance we like the same types of groups. So I can open his contact card and see what groups he's joined. And if there's one here that looks interesting, I can go ahead and preview the conversation for the group without actually joining. And if I do decide I want to join, I can do so with a single click. Now, group conversations are separate from the personal inbox by default. But if there's a group that's really important to you, you can go ahead and subscribe to the group. So this marketing forum group is really important to me. When I subscribe to it, all the group's conversations get copied to my personal inbox, and all the group's events get copied to my personal calendar. So moving forward, I'll never miss anything related to that group. Now you can see I can navigate to any of the group's applications from here. So let's take a look at the SharePoint site for the marketing forum group. Just as in Outlook and in Yammer, membership has been automatically configured for the group site. And you can see the documents here, which are stored in the group's OneDrive. You also get this highlight section, which surfaces the most relevant and popular documents from the group's OneDrive. And of course, you get the same customization and extensibility you would expect from a SharePoint site. Now, Harv mentioned that the smartphone is becoming the primary device for communications. And so last year, we obviously launched native OA apps for the iPhone and iPad, as most of you know. So I have the OA for iPad open here. You can see it right here on the iPad, and I can go ahead and launch it. And now you'll notice a list of groups here. It's the same list of groups you saw earlier in the browser. So yes, group navigation is completely integrated into the mobile app. If I tap on the marketing forum group, it'll open the group's conversations. So you can see that the card view and the feed really stand out on this touch interface. And of course, you get all the same features I showed you earlier, including the inline previews. Now, if I go ahead and go to the calendar, you can see the same 3 group calendars here pinned, just as you saw earlier in the browser. So you can see that the group experience has been completely integrated into the iPad. It'll also be completely integrated into the iPhone. But wait, there's more. I have some big news to share with all of you. In fact, you are the only audience in the world to hear about this. So I'm really, really excited to announce that we have designed a native OA app for the Android phone.
Yay.
So you can see here that the app looks great. It looks just like it does on the iPhone and the iPad, and you can see the experience has been really customized for the smaller screen of the Android phone. If I go ahead and tap on the marketing forum group, you'll get the great conversation feed, just as you saw before, but the card view now really stands out on this device. And once again, group navigation is completely integrated into this app. And finally, if I go ahead and go to the calendar, you'll see once again the same 3 calendars are pinned there. So we are helping users to be productive on the go as well as from the office with groups collaboration. So that does it. With groups, we're unifying people, conversations, and content across Office 365. We'll have a lot more to show you later in the year, but we hope you enjoyed this sneak peek of groups. Thank you very much.
That was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Harv, just to kind of bring it back, talked about social integration, things like, how does that relate between Exchange and Yammer and the other assets we have across Office?
Great question. So, I would say that others outside Microsoft, they have chosen to pit social and email against each other.
Okay.
And we really believe that's the wrong model.
Okay.
We have awesome products in Outlook, Exchange, Yammer, and through connecting the groups between them, through connecting the conversations between them, we are enabling our users, like Steve showed, to participate in the same groups, to participate in the same conversations, and be able to talk with everybody else in the company. It's really the best of both social and email together.
Nice.
And if you fast forward a few years, I don't think we're going to be thinking about this in terms of email or social. I think we'll be thinking about this in terms of private conversations and public conversations, and those will be weaved throughout all of the apps in Office, and all the apps and services in Office.
All right.
Now add to that, that we are doing deep integration with OneDrive to make it easy for you to collaborate with others on documents. We are using Office Graph and machine learning to make that experience be truly tailored, personalized to you, to help you stay on top of what's important to you.
All right.
And then as Steve showed, we're making all of this available through beautiful, rich experiences on all screens really, including and especially the phone.
Fantastic.
I'm very excited about social email.
Yep.
And I think that as you guys learn more about it in the next few days, I hope you guys get excited about as excited about it as I am.
Good.
And thank you, Julia, for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you, Harv, for being here. It's fantastic to hear about what you're working on. All right, thanks.
Bye.
Who could forget such classics as
Hard to discover.
You could call the hybrid configuration wizard Kareem and Vivek's baby.
We got him.
Who can tell me what email is?
Isn't that in a computer?
Are you a mailman?
Okay, all right. Can you tell me what a SAN is?
You mean like San Francisco? I picked up a whole bunch of sailors there once, and we went to this wild bar down in the Mission.
Let's try something a little bit different. Well, a SAN is a storage area network. Is it a good idea to use hybrid storage solutions and stubbing? No, that's an anathema. Can you say anathema?
Anathema.
Excellent.
Mr. Cat, I don't get this. Where's your hair?
Where's...
All right, and welcome back. I am now joined, of course, by Perry Clark, because it would not be MEC without a live showing of our Geek Out with Perry. So Perry, great to have you here.
Thank you, Julia.
And as hopefully most of you know, Perry leads the development team for Exchange. Now, as the person who builds the futures of all what we're doing, we saw some awesome stuff here today, some cool demos. Now, how are we delivering all of that, both on premises as well as in Office 365?
Well, going back to when we first started the service offering as part of Office 365 and Exchange Online, one of the core bets was always having trying to do this with a single code base. We thought that was key not just from an engineering efficiency perspective, but also making sure that the offerings we're giving to the huge base of customers on premise were fundamentally the same as the ones that we're being able to provide in the cloud. But one of the key things of making this actually work is the ability to build an engineering system that allows us to deploy changes rapidly, robustly in the cloud, and then package up those individual changes into cumulative updates, service packs, and major releases out of the same code base and get those out to customers later.
Now, Jeff talked about kind of our cloud-first delivery model, and I mean, is that an example of this, and why is this better?
Yeah, well, yes, this is an example of that, and it's better because entropy.
Entropy. It's not what I expected. You're going to have to explain that.
So details of your first year Stanford physics is a little fuzzy.
Apparently.
So, well, entropy, we're all geeks here, is probably one of the most core concepts of the way this universe works. You know, it's basically the statement that there's no free lunch. Everything you do in this world increases the amount of disorder, randomness, and if you want to build systems that are really efficient, you want to find processes that minimize the amount of entropy and disorder that you're creating. And the characteristics of processes that have the lowest entropy are processes that are called reversible, and they have the characteristic of being smooth, in thermodynamic equilibrium with their environment, and they don't look like massive big step functions of change that happen all at once. And yet, if you think about the way our model for delivering on premise, you can see, you know, you're running your nice current version of Exchange, you come to a vNext, and then you go through this big step function and you deploy a huge amount of change that's been built up as we're building a system over years. And all this change has to be introduced to users, and we find a lot of unexpected things. You know, as we move along here in time, making a lot of interesting changes, if we're not validating each one, they get bound up and tightly coupled later with a lot of changes across the system. And when you get done, you have a very large number of very good things, and then a small number of things that are not so good. And it's very hard to pull out those not so good things later on. So one of the cool things about the cloud model is the ability of approximating this reversible process kind of thing, is making a whole bunch of very small changes. Each one are very reversible in the sense that the impact is small and you can easily undo them long before they get coupled with later on changes. So when you make mistakes, you can reverse them. That causes a little bit of entropy when you do the reverse, but in the end, you're not just spreading this randomness, this disorder across time, you actually end up with less entropy in the system that you're introduced to get the same amount of work done in the process.
And so what's the benefit for on-premises customers?
Right, so one of the interesting things is, if you think about what happens to an on-premise customer, it isn't just that, again, that we have, we're going to just deliver the same set of things.
Yeah.
We think that in the end, the on-premise customer is going to run along there, and then when he starts deploying, he's actually going to deploy a different set of bits because we've already pre-pulled out a lot of the screwed up stuff in the system. And that delta there is what we think of as, you know, conceptually the key benefit to on-premises of taking advantage of the fact that we have a single code base.
Nice.
Nice nod from Tony.
All right. So this model, the cloud-first model, it's great, obviously, for Office 365, but it actually has really material benefits for on-premises as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So I've heard this conspiracy theory that we might be doing things like, hey, you know what, we're going to do this cloud-first delivery model, and we're going to not ship some stuff to on-premise just because we can make it more, people drive them harder to the cloud.
Right.
You do the development. Is that true?
Well, you know, I don't know much about business, but we've done all this engineering to be able to deliver with all this fantastic value to the cloud and package it up and be able to ship it at very low additional cost. Mm-hmm. And we have hundreds of millions of customers on premise. And so people think that there's a fantastic business model for just not shipping it.
I'm going to take that as a no.
You're the business expert.
I'll take that as a no. Put that to rest. Fair enough. All right, so another thing, in the demo today, we saw everything demoed in Outlook web app, which is great, but what about Outlook? Like, what's going on?
Right. Well, we do think that this continuous development model works particularly well when you can tightly couple the user experience and the business logic on the back end and the front end at the same time. And that's kind of core to the web development model. Sure. It's inherently coupled. When we deploy a server, it makes sure that the experience and the changes on the server are there together, and makes this model a lot simpler. So you're definitely going to see things come out in OA first. Okay. But again, this enables us to deliver things for the next version of Outlook, the rich native client, better, faster, and all that change is going to show up in the next version.
Okay, so same idea applied to both OA and Outlook client. All right. Okay, so that's a little bit about what we saw today and what we're delivering. Now I want you to step back and look in your Perry crystal ball. And I want to know what's coming. What do you see the future? What do you see when you look in that crystal ball?
In my crystal ball. So the implication there is you have a Julia crystal ball. Could you tell me about the crystal ball shop? Because I could.
You could use one?
I could use one. Okay. Well, we still think there's an awful lot of life left in the existing exponential hardware curves that are dramatically increasing the cost of storage, compute, memory. This is both affecting the capital expense and the power efficiency of getting a unit of computation done. But here's kind of the interesting thing. Okay. We think that those cost advantages are actually driving up and unlocking scenarios at a rate that's just as fast or even faster. And this is kind of an effect that's people keep getting caught by surprise. Is a bit unintuitive, and yet there's just so many historical examples of this going on. Okay. An example would be lighting. Despite over the last couple of centuries, just orders of magnitude improvement in the cost of delivering light to people, you've taken all that cost and efficiency improvements and turned it not into saving money, but into buying more light. Now people light their gardens and their houses and their sidewalks, and people have brighter lights so it's easier to read and stay up later and not sleep, and people around the planet can do these things. The total bill across the planet has just dramatically increased despite incredibly rapid rates of improving the underlying efficiency. And one of the key trends we think in the collaboration communication space is this effect is going to dominate. The hardware is unlocking the opportunity to build really rich, deep machine learning models that allows us to really and customize those to users. There's a whole paradigm shift going on. We're moving away from modeling really dumb things like your desktop or your filing cabinet to modeling your brain. What are the things you want to read? Okay. What do you want to know? What do you want to do? And having the system be able to anticipate that, push the information, make sure that you've got it in the right context at the right time. Even getting to the point of starting to take actions on your behalf. Perhaps allowing you to sleep in for an extra 30 minutes every day and catch up on the repair process that everybody says Americans are missing on. So we think this is going to actually be a driver for increasing amounts of hardware expense and power spent in the communication collaboration space. And as a result, we think that's going to be a key driver for worrying about the efficiency and the environmental impact of those systems and getting those under control. And honestly, that's going to be a big driver moving to the cloud. The economies of scale and being able to do this at continent scale is something that makes it just dramatically easier to solve some of these problems.
Where are we going to get all that compute power? I mean, talking about kind of the Office graph and other ideas. Where does all that compute power come from?
Right. So, one of the big opportunities here is the amount of wasted capacity that we just leave hanging around in every single server on the planet. You have to build to your peak utilization and leave a little bit of buffer. And over a week, and the graph represents kind of utilization across North America for our service. you can see two things. People kind of work Tuesday to Thursday. And some people never stop working. I think one of those guys is Chi Lu. But there's all this spare capacity in here. It's upwards of 75% of the total capacity in the system. This is just wasted CPU cycles, wasted I/O that literally cost nothing. And it's just sitting around in data centers helping to warm up the world, which is probably not a good thing. So there's this huge opportunity about taking all these things and applying them to the problems we're facing. Fortunately, this machine learning, deep modeling work turns out to be not very synchronous with user requests.
Got it.
Okay? So it can be much more easily used off-peak and in preparation for when somebody comes online and starts asking questions of it.
Okay, all right.
So that's a huge thing.
I get that. Now, what else? I mean, you got a big crystal ball. What is it? What else do you see in there?
Right. Well, on the storage side, it wouldn't be a geek out thing if I didn't manage to talk about storage growth. There's kind of these two effects going on. Yes, people are keeping more stuff around because it's just getting cheaper. But the benefit of all this compute power that's becoming available and building machine models that really derive human insight out of this stuff is actually driving up the value of having that data around. It isn't just emails cluttering up disk drives with the odd chance you might search it at some point in the future. It's actually helping to inform the models because this is your memory. So modeling your brain gets better if we have more of your memories to work with. And the output of those models makes the data more valuable. So over time, we think you see this sort of deeply nonlinear impact of sort of value over cost for storage, which is going to, again, drive up the amount of storage retained per user very dramatically in the future and sort of outstrip even the efficiency wins and the density wins we're seeing on disk drives, which again comes back to the pressure on getting efficiency wins is going to increase because we're spending more on it.
All right. Now, Christian talked a lot about information protection, security, that area.
Yeah.
What do you think as you look forward? What goes on in that space?
Right. Well, recently I've been spending increasing amount of time in the last 18 months talking to customers about this, their data and making sure that it's secure, they know where it is, who's got access to it is transparent, and the controls and regulatory controls on that stuff. And we think this is a long-term key trend. We're investing hard in it. And we kind of think this is going to be a big driver for people moving to the cloud.
You don't think people, over time are just going to get comfortable with lower security, less data privacy? You don't think that's just a downward trend?
No. When you look at, we just talked about how people are going to be storing more and more data and how the value of that data is getting more and more. So you've got something valuable, it's getting more valuable with time. You're going to get more and more comfortable with, I don't know who's looking at it, I don't know who's got access to it, I don't know who's stealing it. No, I think as this stuff gets more valuable, people are going to be more concerned about who's got control over it, who's got access to it, and are we retaining the right stuff from a regulatory perspective and so on. So that trend we think is actually just increasing over time.
Got it, all right. And then what about when you think about moving to the cloud?
Right, well, we think this is a big driver for people to move to the cloud.
All right, so people are going to get less comfortable with data privacy, and it's going to drive them to the cloud.
Yeah.
All right, you have to explain that one.
Okay. Again, this comes down to scale of investments. When you're trying to build a system optimized for a single tenant, there's a set of investments around controls, background checks, limiting the number of people per mailbox that becomes very expensive to do. That is quite possible when you can amortize this across very large numbers of tenants. At the crudest level, you can sort of think about it as a kind of a metric of how many people have access to your mailbox.
As a proxy for data privacy, I assume?
Yeah, it's a very crude measure, but in a lot of 1, 5, 10, an awful lot of companies, if you look carefully, there's a good 5 or 10 people that have access to most mailboxes at any given time, something like that. We're working very hard on this idea of zero standing access and driving this down continuously and getting it down. We're not saying that the cloud has got zero risk, but we are saying that we can get this arbitrarily close to an ideal number over time. And there's a lot of investments that go in that are going to get to on-premise, But there's a set of things that become very tough to figure out how to do that economically. So I don't think the cloud is going to be the place that's got zero risk. There's no free lunch in this universe. But can we engineer systems so that your risk profile actually drops substantially net? Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you, Perry. It's always enlightening to hear from you, and great to see what you think moving forward as well. Unfortunately, we are out of time today to geek out more with Perry, but luckily he's here all week, so you can geek out to your heart's content with Perry anytime through the show. But thank you so much, Perry. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Julia. Thank you, everybody.
All right. So I hope you guys are excited as I am about what's going on and what you saw on the show today. And this is just a small taste. Everything we showed today, there's sessions on. You can go get much, much deeper on all of it and learn more, because that's really what MEC is all about, right, is learning more. Now, we have sessions, of course, to all the topics. We also have an exchange experience. Now, this is not your traditional kind of stuffy lab. This is actually show up, 5 minutes, kind of get your hands on, get dirty, and get out. And so I really encourage you to try it out, and I'd love to have feedback about how well that works too. And then don't miss the Exchange exhibit, which has the Exchange Museum and my personal favorite video. I know we saw some cool videos today. The one in the museum's even better, I promise you. And of course, MEC is all about connecting. And so we want to keep an eye out for people in those blue and brown shirts you see there, because those are your MVPs. They're the engineers from the product team. Those are your experts on the ground today and through the week at MEC. So get your questions answered. They're excited to hear from you. They want to hear your feedback. So search those guys out for sure. We also have a fantastic party tonight. We're actually going to shut down Rainy Street, which is a cool local place with bars and restaurants. We're going to own the place, local music, local food. It's going to be a great time. Don't miss that. And then tomorrow night, Mappy Beer is a long-standing tradition, so we'll see you at Mappy Beers. Don't miss that, too. And we also have a great digital experience, so you can enjoy MEC, too. So I'm actually I have my cool Dell Venue 8 Pro tablet to show you some of the awesome tools we have here at MEC. Well, we can see that. All right. So we have, first of all, we have our Yammer network for MEC. So if you've not ever tried Yammer, this is your chance. Get on, start updating and get that. Also, of course, Twitter. You can go out in the hashtag IamMech Twitter. Hopefully, you've already been doing that through the show. And then, of course, we have the IamMech website where you can get all the conference schedule, all the information there. And a little plug for the quiz game. So twice a day, we have quizzes. Every answer, you get free T-shirts and a coupon, or I guess a ticket. And at the end of the week, we will pick one winner from that raffle, and you will get that awesome giant command center chair that you'll see down on the exhibit floor. So don't miss out on your chance to win that. And then the OneNote notebook. So we have a pre-config OneNote notebook for everything you need to know about MEC as well. So get ready after that. All right, so just to close off, to do a little fun thing, I'm actually going to make someone extra special happy today, and I'm actually going to give away this fancy little tablet right here in my hand. So right now, everybody, reach under your chair. I'm not kidding. Grab a little thing. It looks like this. Pull. It's going to be tucked under there. Pull your ticket. Hold it up. Hold it up. Let's find out who's lucky. Hold it up. Everyone, pull, pull, pull. All right, let's find out who's lucky. Ready? Number 4, 0, 5, 0, 5, 5. Who's a winner? Who's a winner? That's right, everybody's a winner! Yeah! Sit down! Everybody won! That's right, that's right. Now wait, maybe some of you are checking the calendar, because April Fool's Day is tomorrow. You're right, you really did win. All right, so today, at lunch, you go, throw this ticket away, doesn't matter. You'll scan your badge. You'll pick up one of these awesome, awesome devices. Congrats. That's right. So you can have the full MEC digital experience right here, right now. So at lunchtime, right next to the lunch cafeteria, you'll see a spot. There'll be big signs. Scan your badge, get your tablet, and enjoy. So, all right, government employees, check in. Annual only for full registered attendees. All right, for that, enjoy the show. Thank you so much. Rock 'em.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Breakout sessions are going to start promptly at 10:40. 10:40. Thank you very much and enjoy the conference. Again, 10:40. Thank you.